Welcome to another edition of Lakeville's City Council Wrap-Up. During this program, we will highlight the agenda items presented to the Lakeville City Council at their February 1st, 2016 meeting. First highlighted item on the agenda is item number 5A, Community and Economic Development Annual Report. And to provide the background information on this agenda item is Community and Economic Development Director Dave Olson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. It is my pleasure to be here tonight to talk about this, and we had a kind of a preview, or I did a preview of this report last week to the EDC meeting, and actually received some good feedback, and the mayor got to sit through that, and as an ex officio member of the EDC, but EDC had some good comments, and you'll see a few more new things in the presentation that weren't there last week. But we'll get right into it. This is one of the primary indicators of the economic development activity in the community in any year, and in 2015, this chart shows that we had over 200 million in building permit issuance. And if you're into facts and figures and statistics historically, anyway, that's the third highest in the city's history. The previous 2 years the only 2 years that exceeded that total were in 2003, where we did about 250 million, and in 2004, where we did about 239 million. But you can see, post-recession that things have really taken off here in Lakeville, and we'll get into a little bit more of the details, what comprises that $200 million number. And the one that obviously that we also follow very closely in the economic development circles is the commercial industrial portion of that. And all of the numbers you'll see tonight are kind of a 5-year trend to kind of just give the council an indication of what's been happening over the last 5 years. And you can see we shot way up over 3 times the value of the last couple of years in 2015. And this was, in fact, the highest commercial industrial permit number in the city's history. Those years, similar years of the overall numbers being high. In 2004, came close. We did 44.5 million. In 2007, we did 44.1 million. So the 45.1 million in 2015 was an all-time high. And one of the questions that came up at the EDC, well, what was included in that, or what comprised that number? And so this is a new slide that we added since last week, and it shows the major permits that were issued and the major projects that were done in 2015. And the top 3 really comprised half of it. I mean, the Hy-Vee grocery store, the BTD expansion, and the FedEx freight facilities. Those 3 were almost 25 million, or over half of the total 45 million. So 3 big projects, and then a couple more after that. Candlewood Suites and Atlanta Clinic were 4.5 and 2.0 million respectively. And then we had a fairly long list of projects that ranged from $500,000 to 1.7. So the other thing that I think is healthy is that it's a real broad combination of retail, office, manufacturing, warehouse, and some, as well as, and a pretty good combination of expansion of existing businesses, for existing businesses, or new businesses coming to town, such as Hy-Vee and FedEx and some of those. Residential, we did, and it's been reported on, but the number of residential unit permits and then single-family permits, and 420 was the number of residential unit permits issued in 2015, and that number is comprised of single-family and townhome. We didn't have any multifamily projects in 2015, so everything on the residential side was either single-family or townhome. The single-family number of that 420 was 361. You can see how that compares to the previous years, and with the exception of 13, which was 370. It is the second highest in the last 5 years. And as we will show in the next slide, it was the highest number of residential permits in the Twin Cities, and we were also able to verify it in the state of Minnesota. The one that comes close sometimes, obviously, is Rochester. Has a pretty healthy housing industry down there. I spent a number of years working down there, but they did 289 single-family homes, so we were almost 100 more than was built in Rochester last year. And Blaine, Plymouth, Woodbury, and Otsego rounding out the top 5. So, and this is the third year in a row that Lakeville was the highest in the Twin Cities for single-family permits. I can't swear to that, of whether it was the highest in the state those other years. This shows residential units, and some of the same cities show up, but a couple new ones. And what this chart shows is that the number of the cities, I mean, Plymouth and Minnetonka were in the top 5 in terms of permits, but they're both 200 units over the number of permits, which means they had multifamily projects, and as did Edina and Minnetonka. So all of these suburban cities are seeing a fair amount of apartment development, and in the case of Blaine and Plymouth, kind of also a fairly high level of single-family home development. But Lakeville's numbers, again, were all, this 420 number was all single-family and townhomes. We also track it and provide quarterly reports to the school districts to let them know what kind of residential permit activity is taking place. In the, as everyone knows, Lakeville is comprised of 3 different school districts. So ISD 192 of Farmington had 33 new permits, residential permits issued. 194, which is by far the lion's share geographically of Lakeville, the 307, and ISD 196, which is mostly up in the northeast part of Lakeville, had 80 residential permits issued during the year. This is kind of this is a map showing where all those permits were located geographically in the city, and you can see while it's spread out there are 2 areas. I mean, there's the northeast part of town, which is 196 and 192, includes the Spirit Branch and Farm and the Tullamore development just to the west of that, which is kind of reaching build out. We won't see a lot more permit activity there. And then the center part of Lakeville is where the activity is right now, from Cedar to Dodd and from basically 202nd Street north to 185th. You see a big kind of cluster of activity in terms of where those permits are being issued, houses are being constructed. This lays on top of the permits, which are the green dots or squares shown on the map, and then also laid over on top of that or adjacent to that are the new final platted lots that were approved in 2015. And it's interesting. You'll see a lot of green dots outside of the red, new subdivisions, which means that they were being built in subdivisions that were platted 1 or 2 or 3 years ago. Obviously, after a final plat is approved, it takes a while for all the infrastructure to be installed and then the permits to actually be issued. So when we show this, this graphic next year, you'll see probably more, green spots on the platted lots that were approved in 2015. And this shows the trend is following and took a big leap up in terms of, and this is single family final platted lots. So these are lots, this isn't, a lot of the developments come in with larger preliminary plats, and then they do final plats for each phase that they tend to plat in 1 or 2 year increments. We jumped up, from 300, and we've been going between 350 and 430 in the last few years in terms of single-family platted lots, kind of a flat line in the middle, but it really jumped up in 2015, and a good portion or reason for that was the Avon Lee development on Cedar Avenue by Mattamy Homes, and this is another graphic that shows the breakdown of both the single family in blue, but the other thing that's interesting to see in 2015 is both the attached and detached townhome plats started coming through again, and I think that's a good thing. It provides some additional housing choice. We've been kind of indicating or suggesting developers consider a detached townhome product. It's a different type of product. It's still a detached dwelling, but it's targeted to different markets, and especially for those people, maybe empty nesters that are looking for more of a maintenance-free type of living situation. The detached townhome product provides that. And this is a fun graph. You've seen it around. We've changed it a little bit here. These are all projects that for which, with the exception of Post, every other project on this slide had a building permit that was issued in 2015, and it was on that list that we showed earlier. And again, it's a pretty wide cross section of different types of commercial industrial uses, from restaurants to preschools and daycares to clinics to manufacturing and distribution and retail. So kind of a fun slide, and it is, and I will qualify this. It sets the bar kind of high, and we don't see this level of activity every year. And and especially when you see some of those bigger, you don't necessarily get, $3 $8 million projects every year. And so while it's looking like, and we're seeing a fair amount of activity and interest on the commercial industrial side already for 2016, I can't promise you we're going to have this many businesses to put up on a slide for next year. One of the things that the EDC asked about when we made this presentation last week, and this was actually a graphic or something we had put together before, but I didn't have it included in the PowerPoint, was the projects that the city was involved with from an incentive standpoint. And this actually includes 14 and 15. I believe the only project that was a 14 project approval and start of construction was the Menasha project, but it shows both the role of the city and the role of the state, and that's something that's really changed in the last few years. And I was invited to talk at the statewide Winter Economic Development Conference about a week and a half ago, and I, along with my counterpart from Apple Valley, were asked to talk about some retention projects that occurred and specifically they wanted me to talk about the Post serial, and Apple Valley was invited to talk about the Uponor project. And both of us indicated that, in my opinion, if we wouldn't have had the deed folks at the table with us when we met with the first time with the folks from Post and willing to come to the table with something to offer in terms of incentive, I don't know that it would have turned out the way it did. So this is a change. I mean, they have the Job Skills Partnership, the Job Creation Fund, the Minnesota Investment Fund. These are all tools and projects that or programs that we are able to and have been able to in the last 2 years access, and businesses have benefited from and made locations decisions in part based on these programs. 327 new jobs in these, and I should qualify, all of these projects, in fact, I think they have all been completed that involved construction activity, with the exception of SSB Manufacturing, that will be breaking ground in the spring, but all the other projects have in fact been completed. Unemployment rates, this is a number we typically include in our presentation the last few years, and you can see what it's done in terms of last 5 years, going down from 4.8 to 2.7 for the Lakeville area. And this is even a more interesting slide, in my opinion. This one goes back further. This one goes back 10 years. And I should qualify, this was based, this is state Department of Employment Economic Development data from the second quarter of 2015, so it's about 6 months old. But it shows the increase of jobs that have occurred, particularly in the last 5 years. And when we've gone from 14,000 to over 500 to over 16,700, almost 800, and just in the last year alone, about 800 new jobs. And again, that was from mid-14 to mid-15, so it's all obviously good information. Manufacturing tours were part of the activity that we were and partnered with the Chamber of Commerce on last year, and we've a new program the last couple of years. We try and target at least industrial visits during the week or two prior to the manufacturers event in October. These are some of the companies that we were able to visit this last year. We continue on our marketing initiatives, open to business, and we just got their annual report information last week, and we'll be forwarding that to council. Talk about manufacturers appreciation, MinCar Expo, and some of the other activities. This happens to be a booth that we attend the last couple of years at the Minnesota Commercial Association Realtors event that they have up in Minneapolis in December. So, and then finally, part of what structures our work activities in the Economic Development Department is the strategic plan for economic development that the EDC and City Council have approved, and we are on a 3-year cycle. This 16 will be the 3rd year of that current 3-year plan, but priorities were high-skill, high-wage jobs. I think there were projects, obviously, that have been occurring that are meeting and consistent with that priority. Infrastructure to leverage opportunities. While we didn't have a slide on it, 2015 included a fair amount of staff time working on both the County Road 50 project, the County Road 5 172nd intersection project, and then also coming up with a new policy and working with Dakota County on turn lane issues out in the industrial park along County Road 70. Retention and expansion, and again, as the earlier slides indicated, a number of the projects, at least half of the projects that we've worked on, are existing businesses that are choosing to expand and invest in Lakeville. Incentives and tools, we had a slide that obviously has shown the city's activity in that in the last couple of years, enhancing pro-business climate. Obviously, I think a word has gotten out, and again, we had meetings today with another meeting tomorrow with brokers or representatives of commercial businesses that are looking to Lakeville, and I think word is out that there's growth and activity occurring down here, and as a result, we're getting a fair amount of interest. Finally, high-density housing. There weren't any projects in 2015, but I can tell you we are hearing and talking from developers that are expressing interest in. Mattamy has a site over on Cedar Avenue by the Park and Ride, and we're actually looking at and evaluating some commercial sites both along Cedar and along I-35 that developers have approached us, or brokers representing the property owners have approached us about possibly doing some either mixed residential, commercial, or more strictly high-density housing, and you'll probably see something more occur on that later this year. So with that, I will stand for any questions.
Next highlighted item on the agenda is item number 5B, Parks and Recreation Quarterly Report. And to provide the background information on this agenda item is Interim Parks and Recreation Director John Hennon.
City Council, I will be highlighting the programs and events from the months of December and January, since we already presented to you information on October and November at a previous meeting. That being said, starting with the Lakeville Area Arts Center, the Arts Center had some great turnouts with the Elf Jr. the musical performance, selling out all 8 shows, and the final tickets sold for those performances was 1,992. Also, we had Sand and Puppets, featured the Shaffelli Puppets, and this event was attended by 112 folks. Simple Gifts was also in town, and they sold out to a crowd of 210. Monroe Crossing, 300 folks attended their performance, and another 80 attended the show by Phil Halstead. And finally, on January 16th, the Eagles Tribute Band also sold out their show, selling out 320 tickets. Very good show. I attended that one myself. Also at the Lakeville Area Arts Center, we had the classes like the Wine and Design Workshop, continue to be successful with 91 participating in the December class. And if you recall, last year we received the Minnesota State Arts Board Operational Support Grant, and the grant allowed the Arts Center to double the investment made towards marketing the facility, which included a 424% increase in Facebook followers and allowed for the creation of other platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn profiles. And as a result of this grant and the great work by Joe and Carla at the Arts Center, you can see there was a 23% increase in the program registrations from 14 to 15, and also a 24% increase in ticket sales compared to the same time frame in 2014. Park maintenance, as you know, is a mild December, so we weren't able to get our rinks up and going until early January, but they are up and operating now, all 8 facilities, so folks should take advantage of that. And once those are up and operating, then we can go forward and apply our red and blue lines at our facilities. Under recreation, a number of programs, the Santa's Secret Store and Cookies for Santa was a great success with nearly 40 participating in the making cookies for Mr. Claus, and over 450 attended the Santa's Secret Store, which was held at the Heritage Center. And also 42 tickets were sold for the Disney on Ice Dare to Dream show. Also in recreation, we had the programs continue to do well, such as the Music Together class that had 42 participants. 12 couples attended participated in our adult dance, and 231 in the Learn to Skate program. The Heritage Center, a number of items or programs were going on during the holidays, such as the holiday vendor market and holiday bake shop that had 13 crafters participating. And there's also a trip in December, a grand Christmas trip, and 11 members toured the James J. Hill Mansion and the Alexander Ramsey House in the month of December. And finally, the Lakeville Area Active Adults Holiday Open House had approximately 100 members participate, taking part in some hors d'oeuvres, Christmas piano music, and some fellowship. So that was a great event, and that was sponsored by Highview Hills Senior Living, the Fountains at Hosanna, and Cub Pharmacy. So thank you for those folks for donating to that event. We also implemented our new rec track system that was rolled out in January. So new membership cards are being distributed to members in person, and they're becoming familiar with the barcode reader and touchscreen as noted on the slides here, and which allows them to check in for their daily programs. And we have volunteers and staff helping them each and every day when they're getting acclimated to the new program. Also, there was a program, it was a weightlifting program, 101. So that allowed, which is introductory class to the basics of weightlifting as a method to strengthen and tone muscles for the seniors. And finally, there was a lasagna dinner also that was held on January 28th, and it was sponsored by the Knights of Columbus.
Is that before or after the weightlifting?
That was after.
All right, sounds good.
Also, 7 new members in January, so we have a total of 1,110 members. Upcoming events, February 6th, which is this Saturday, is the annual youth ice fishing contest at Valley Lake Park from noon to 2. And also, weather permitting, February 28th, the dog sled, snowmobile rides, and snowshoeing at Ritter Farm Park from 12 to 3. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you.
Next highlighted item on the agenda is item number 7, public hearing to consider improvements to Highview Avenue. And to give the background information on this agenda item is Operation and Maintenance Engineer Monica Heil.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is a public hearing for the Highview Avenue Improvement Project. As you'll recall, the project extends from 205th Street down to the city limits. The project was initiated as a part of the city's pavement management program. Each year, we are rating a third of the city's streets and basing their condition based on the quantified statistics that we take of the roadways. This information is used to develop city's capital improvement plan, and Highview Avenue was identified for improvements in 2016, specifically because some of the tenting issues that appeared during the winter months. As the pavement tents, it creates bumps and an unfavorable situation for drivers using that roadway. The City Council authorized the preparation of a feasibility report back on November 16th of 2015. A public hearing was ordered on January 4th of this year following the presentation of the feasibility report to the City Council. Street improvements include the reclamation of the roadway surface. That reclamation work will address the winter tenting issues that are currently being experienced along Highview Avenue. In addition, some minor utility repairs will be completed while the roadway surface is removed, and a new street section will be constructed. A number of the shoulders along this section of Highview Avenue have been rutted due to some vehicle traffic on the shoulders. We do propose to improve those as a part of the improvement project as well. The estimated project costs are $416,535. Of that, $249,921 will be funded using city capital improvement plan funds. The remaining $166,614 will be funded by special assessments to the benefiting property owners. Within commercial and industrial areas, assessments are calculated on a per front foot basis, so those properties with frontage along Highview Avenue are proposed to be assessed. The estimated assessment is $33.76 per front foot. This would be assessed over a 20-year period with the first payment due with taxes payable in 2017. At this time, these are just estimates. If the City Council does decide to move forward with the project and the project is bid, the final assessment amounts would be determined once we have those bid prices. The city's assessment policy is to assess 40% of the costs associated with the street and storm sewer improvements for the project. Utility repairs proposed to be completed are not assessed and are funded using utility funds. The properties are assessed on a front foot basis, again, for those frontages along Highview Avenue. Looking at the project schedule, we brought the feasibility report to you at your January 4th meeting. At that time, you set this public hearing date for this evening. If the City Council decides to move forward with the project, staff will move forward with the production of plans and specifications, and we would anticipate a bid opening on April 1st. We would then come back to the council at its April 18th meeting to declare the costs and also set a date for a special assessment hearing to talk specifically about the special assessments for the project. The special assessment hearing could be conducted at the council's May 16th meeting, and the council could also consider award of a construction contract at that time. Due to some of the work on the north end of Highview Avenue right now, adjacent to the interstate property, we are proposing not to begin construction on the Highview Avenue improvements until late August or September, when all work has been finished at the interstate property. Work would go rather quickly with the construction wrapping up in either September or October, depending upon when we get started, and the assessments would be certified to the county in December of 2016. And with that, the council can move forward with conducting a public hearing and also considering a resolution ordering the improvements and authorizing the preparation of plans and specifications and advertisements for bid. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Item number 7 was approved by the Lakeville City Council. Well, those were the highlighted items presented to the council at their February 1st, 2016 meeting. If you have any questions or comments regarding these agenda items, please feel free to call City Hall. The number is 952-985-4400. Thanks for watching this edition of Lakeville City Council Wrap-Up.